Tracy here from The Passionate Spinner. Today I come to you with a tutorial for how to knit the drawstring channel on my Skrabucket pattern. And it's a lot easier than you might think. What we're going to do is we are going to insert a lifeline. We are going to put 2 stitches on hold where the markers are, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So what I've brought is this large needle here. It has a bent tip, which I really like for putting in lifeline. And I brought, and that's the important bit here, a yarn that has a high contrast to my actual knitting so that I will be able to see it later. So I'm going to put those away. Now everything's a bit shaky, and I have knit a few stitches here before realizing that it's time to put in the drawstring. So I'm gonna have to tink those back real quick, which isn't a big deal. Now your pattern tells you to put 1 stitch before and 1 stitch after your marker on hold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of those stitch markers, and I am going to slip those 2 stitches and the marker in between on here, because that is a perfect holder for 2 stitches. Close it up, and now I'm gonna ignore that. The next part is inserting the lifeline. What we're gonna do for that is get this yarn threaded in the needle. You don't have to cut your length before. And now I am going to leave all the stitches on the needle. That is important. I am going to thread my needle through those stitches and just pull that white yarn through. That is how you insert a lifeline wherever you have to insert a lifeline, you know. Usually you do it in lace shawls, so that if you screw up, you have a place where you can rip back to easily. But we are using it to make the channel knitting part a bit easier. So I'm going to do that now, all the way over. It's in here. You cannot really see it in the back right now, but you will be able to see it a bit better later. I'm going to insert that like I just started to do, all the way. You have to make sure to catch every stitch. That is why I like to use a bent tip, because it's a bit easier. You can really hook those in and pull it through. I'm going to do that all the way over here until I reach that 1 stitch before my marker, because these will go on a marker again later. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to show you the next bit. I come back with a small tip. If you have problems getting through the stitches while they are on the needle, just pull your needle through so the stitches are all on the cable, because you have a lot more room here. See how easy that just will work? Yeah, so if you do it like that, you're going to have that lifeline in no time. Try to not skip any stitches, and just thread your needle through the stitches like this. I have arrived at the other end. Here is my midway marker, and I stopped 1 stitch before because these 2 stitches will go on a holder. So I have pulled my needle out. I can now adjust the length of the end I'm going to have hanging, and I'm going to say that's enough. And I will also now cut it off on this side, because it just makes life a lot easier. You could leave it attached to the skein, but I don't want to wrangle that, so I don't do that. Let's get rid of the needle real quick so it can't get lost, and then I can talk you through the next part of the pattern. So what we're going to do now is we're going to knit stockinette stitch until we have reached this part, this stitch here, the one before the marker. So get rid of the white, and I can just use the needle that is in my knitting, you know, the circular knitting needle. There's no need to take out a second needle. You won't need it. You can just keep going on one needle. So be careful when you insert your needle now that you will not catch your thread from the lifeline, because later, once you're done, you can just pull it out. And if you split it and kind of, you know, insert your needle through here, you won't be able to pull it out. Just, that's the one thing you have to be careful of now. Make sure to knit your stitches, but also make sure to not insert your needle tip and split the yarn of the lifeline. So you can now see how the lifeline works. It's in here now, it is holding the stitches. And like I said, you usually do this when you do a lace pattern or a cable pattern, and you have finished one repeat. For instance, you insert a lifeline before starting the second one, because if you had to rip back, you can now easily pull out the needle because your stitches are secure down here. They cannot rip back further than the lifeline. So I'm gonna knit over here, and then I'm going to show you the next step. I have now arrived at my other marker, so it's time to put those two stitches on hold again, so they are out of the way. Just gonna use one of those markers like I did before. And I'm going to put the stitch, the marker, and the stitch on the holder, and I can ignore those now. Now, we have knit the first row here. Looks like this from the back, and later you will be able to tell where the white is, which is the important bit. So we are going to now knit stockinette back and forth over however many rows the pattern tells you. And to get a nice edge on either side, you will do the following. You will slip the first one purlwise with the yarn in front on the purl row, then purl back over all the stitches, including the last one. And when you have arrived at the other end and it's time to turn around, you will slip the first stitch knitwise and then knit all the way back. That will give you nice clean edges on both sides. And I'm going to do that now. I'm going to knit, I think, the 12 rows I told you to knit, and then I will come back and show you how this lifeline will be important for us and how it can help with creating the channel that we need to create. I am back. I have finished my 12 rows. Actually, I accidentally knit 14, but that's not, it's not important. I just have to make sure to accidentally knit 14 for the other channel as well. So now you can really see that lifeline in here. When I turn it around, at first glance, you can't tell, but when you pull it apart slightly, you can see down here the white yarn, and that is the important bit. So what we're going to do now is basically we are going to knit a welt. And how we do this is also really simple. I need my needle down here because we're going to knit down here now. And we have to find the first purl bump above that white thread. So here's the white thread, and this here is the first purl bump above the white row. And I'm going to pick up both of those threads, and then I'm going to knit two together. One of my live stitches and the two purl bumps. So the first stitch is knit down. It looks like this now. Switch it over. This one, this stitch here, we have now used. Here's my white line. This is the next one. Can you tell? That's the next one. Pick it up and knit two together. Have a look. white line, next purl bump. I'm in my way with my yarn here. Next purl bump between the white is this one, and knit two together. And when we do that, I'm going to do a few more so you can actually see it better. So I'm getting rid of my yarn so you can see. The white thread is here, and between the next white parts, I have the next purl bump to pick up. Pick up and knit two together. Switch it over, look down, white, white, purl bump, two together. This is how you knit a welt. You can make your life easy with that lifeline, because then you will be able to really see the line, you know, because I'm using the exact same yarn all throughout. And if I'm not doing a lifeline, I will definitely, you know, go up and down here. But with the lifeline, I will keep my welt in a straight line, which is what you want. If you think that doing the lifeline and making sure you see is too much of a hassle, the easiest way to avoid that is to do the complete welt channel section in a contrast yarn. So if I had done, let's say this is this color, and I would have done the channel in a solid green. When you turn it over, where we have the lifeline, everything above that would be green. So you wouldn't need a lifeline because everything is green. So you just have to pick up the first green row. But I'm using the same yarn. So the lifeline is making my life easier because I can see it in the back. If I stretch it out, I can clearly see the white, and then I can pick up the stitch just above. So I'm going to show you from the front what it looks like. So what we're doing now is we are creating this welt like that, and it is, you know, empty on the inside. So this is the channel for the drawstring later. I'm going to attach the whole welt down until I reach over here, and it looks basically like this. And then I will come back and talk you through the second side. Okay? I have now reached my last life stitch, and for that I do not have a corresponding purl bump between the whites. So for that one, I am picking up this purl bump here, that one, and knit it down like that. And that concludes the first side of the drawstring channel. It now looks like this on the inside and like that from the outside. What we can now do is get rid of the lifeline. Boom, gone. And the first side is completely done. We're now going to just ignore those two held stitches. No one needs them. And I will insert the lifeline, and you will too, insert the lifeline on the other side through over all the stitches, and repeat the exact same thing once more. And I'm not going to do that on camera because it's just going to be a repetition of what I already showed you. So that is how you knit the drawstring channel. Just a quick word. Once you have knit the second side and you have those two drawstrings, you will have your needle here, because, you know, we will have knit all of that down and you will be here. So your next thing to do is pick up those two stitches. Make sure to insert your beginning of round marker where it should be. Knit over here, pick up those two stitches. You can get rid of the side marker, you won't need it anymore. And then you can start knitting it around again to knit down your lining. And that is it for the tutorial. It is a long one, but I wanted to make sure to explain this part because it's the most complicated bit about this pattern. And I really hope it helped. And I cannot wait to see your versions of this pattern. Bye!